Now, starting off with some exterior styling, the Seltos has 5 available trim level choices, which means we've got a series of different tires and rims that are available for the vehicle. Size-wise, they're going to be anywhere between a 16 up to an 18 inch, again depending on the trim level choice that you're after. Looking at the EX Premium, this specific one has 17-inch rubber on it. As we start to move forward, we've got our beautiful LED headlamps. On the lower trim levels, it's going to be a halogen headlamp, and then we've also got our fog lamps a little bit further down. Now, when it comes down to the actual drivetrain of the vehicle, depending on which trim level you're looking at, you might be all-wheel drive, you might be front-wheel drive. The majority of the Seltos lineup is going to be all-wheel drive, and it's an intelligent all-wheel, but we also do have the option of locking it out into our permanent four-wheel drive, so that all-wheel drive permanent as well. So rather than letting the vehicle determine if it should be front-wheel drive, what's going on with the power, we can lock it out instead, so we've got that four-wheel drive all the time. Now, taking a peek underneath the hood of the vehicle. So first thing I want to point out, I love the Seltos badge in the front of this thing. I think it pops and it does look very, very sharp. Contrasts nicely with that grille in the front there as well. I think it looks unbelievably sharp. As we hop underneath, so engine choices for the Seltos, we've got 2 choices, and that's going to be the same for Canada and the US. It's either a 2-liter naturally aspirated, so a 4-cylinder, like what we're looking at here, and there also is the optional 1.6-liter turbocharged engine, specifically in the SX Turbo version of the vehicle. From a power perspective, this 2-liter is going to be able to push out 146 horsepower and 132 pound-feet of torque, while the 1.6-liter turbocharged is going to push out 175 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. So plenty of power when it comes down to it. Now, we do have easy access to a few things, so we can easily top up our washer and our coolant. We can easily check our oil, and we've also got easy access to the battery as well. Now, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So on the very bottom, we've got our Kia logo there, which new logo I love the look of. Towards the front of the fob, we've got our lock button, our unlock button, as well as our horn or a panic alarm. Now, on top of that, on the very bottom, we also do have our emergency access key. So we can just crank this thing out if we ever need to get access to the vehicle and the fob has died. Now, one of the cool things is that we do have the option of remote starting through our cell phone, or we can also just press and hold on the fob. So we're going to make sure that the door is locked first, and then we're just going to press and hold this button. As you can see, remote start is now there. In order to cancel remote start, we're just going to press that button again once, and remote start is now canceled. Now, in order to get into the trunk of the vehicle, so if we look at the fob itself along the side there, we don't actually have a trunk release button. So it's actually a manual process inside of the vehicle. So what we're going to do inside of the vehicle, as you can see there, we've got our Kia logo. Underneath, we're just going to press that button there, and that's going to unlock, and we can just lift this thing up. So one of the cool things is that we do have this cargo cover. So this protector cover lets us know that we can kind of make sure that anything that's underneath there is safe. Popping this thing out is very easy. All we're going to do is literally just lift out both sides, and we're just going to push in, rotate, and pull out. Let's have a peek at the cargo dimensions. So cargo dimensions for the vehicle are going to be showing up. So as you can see there, we do have quite a little bit of width and depth towards the vehicle. Now, one nice thing is that we're 60-40 split, so 60 driver, 40 passenger, so we can fold down one side or the other if we wanted to. Now, folding the seats down is very straightforward. Along the back of both the seats, so on the driver passenger side, there's a little latch. We're just going to crank that one up, and we can literally just pop these seats forward. So I'm going to do it to both. Here, now take a peek at the difference in the cargo dimensions when we have that second row folded down. So we get quite a little bit more depth when it comes down to it. So that's one good thing to know. Now, one other thing to point out is that the measurements that you're seeing on screen, it's from the very bottom towards the loading area. So very top to bottom there. And the reason why is because if you've got a box that's bigger, you're not going to be able to fit it in. But if you're stacking some things, if we go from the very bottom to the very top, we've got a couple extra inches of space. Those few extra inches matter. And we also have the option of taking this cover out. So we can take it out, and there's a second tray. So we can lower it down a little bit more. And when we have it lower, we get a couple extra inches in the bottom as well. So if we're storing even more things, we've got way more flexibility when it comes down to it. And same thing, this thing can come out completely if we really wanted to. And we can get about an extra ½ inch or so roughly more when we do that. Now, as we hop inside the back, so taking a peek along the left-hand side, we don't have anything there. We've got a tiny little bit of storage space on both the left and the right side. And then this is going to be the clip for that actual cargo shade there. And moving back, as I mentioned, this whole thing comes out, but when we lift up, we've got our mini spare tire there. We can slide this whole tray out, and we've got our jack there as well. Now, taking a peek at some standard technology, we are always going to have that backup camera inside this vehicle. Outside of that, we won't have the reverse sensing system inside of this, but we do have the lane keeping system as well as the blind spot system. So lane keeping system, same thing, might be available in your trim level. Same thing with the blind spot system. Blind spot system will work two different ways, either just the warning or it's actually got the avoidance system as well to help pull you back into your lane. Now, filling up fuel inside of the vehicle is a very straightforward process, and it is a locked cap, which I think is brilliant. In order to open this thing up, just along our driver's side door, we've got a little button there, and we're just going to pull that thing up in order to open this thing up. And as you can see there, we are a capped system as well. So when it comes down to fuel quality, regular 87 gas is all you need to use. That's a minimum manufacturer's recommendation, regardless of whether you're looking at the 2-liter or the 1.6 turbo. All right, now, as we hop into the second row, so I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody 6 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall, and I still have a nice amount of knee room and a good amount of foot space. Up overhead with me sitting back, I've got about 3 inches of head space as well, so plenty of space back here, which is great. Now, one thing to note, these seats are locked into place, so we can't move them forwards, backwards. We can't adjust the backrest either. Depending on the trim level of the vehicle you're looking at, you might or you might not have a pocket in behind the passenger side seat. We're never going to have one behind the driver's side. Moving into the back of the seat itself, we do have cup holders there as well. As you can see, so cup holders, click it, lock it back into place. As we look behind the armrest, we do have a little storage area, so a little cubby hole there, and we also have another USB port, so we can power some things up if we need to. Looking up overhead, we can also control our cabin lighting. We've got a handle as well as a little hook in the back. Now, taking a peek along our driver's side door. So we've got a button on the outside there. We can press that in order to be able to unlock or lock the door. And then hopping inside. So driver's side door there, we've got a nice look when it comes down to it. Buttons along the very top are going to let us control our side view mirrors, and we've got our basics for our window control. Moving down along the driver and passenger side, we also do have a cup holder and a little bit of storage space. Just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, so we can either increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. We've got our engine start-stop button, so that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if we're stopped for an extended period of time. We've got our lane keeping button, and then we've also got our traction control, so we can turn that system on or off if we want to. Now, adjusting the driver's seat inside of the Seltos might be a manual process, might be a power process, again, depending on which trim level of the vehicle you're looking at. Now, if it's manual, lever in between our legs, but inside of the power is really cool because we've got a couple of toggles along the side. We can use the first one to go forwards, backwards, up, and down. Next one over is going to be for the backrest, so we can go backwards and forwards with that one. And then we've got another button for our lumbar support. So it's two-way power for the lumbar, but it is comfortable to give us a little bit of extra stability in our lower back. Now, one thing to point out, when the seat is all the way back and all the way down, back, it's still going, there we go, okay. All the way back, all the way down, like, look at this. I've got tons of knee room, tons of foot room. Up overhead, I've got about, what's that, like 4 inches of headspace roughly. So if you're taller, you could definitely fit inside of this vehicle. Now, one thing to note, this one does have the sunroof. So if we get an option, one of the lower trims that doesn't have the roof, it'll give us about an extra inch or so roughly of headspace up overhead. So definitely one thing to think about. In order to be able to adjust the steering wheel, it's going to be a manual process across the entire vehicle lineup. So just by our left knee, we've got a little lever there. We're just gonna crank that down, and it's telescopic, so we can go in, out, up and down. Once you've got that perfect position, click it, lock it back into place. Okay. Now, hopping inside the vehicle, so first impressions, this thing looks really, really sharp. Like, I love the new Kia logo. They did a great job on the redesign. Next up, taking a peek at the steering wheel of the vehicle. So beautiful look when it comes down to it, but let's dive into it. So starting off with the buttons along the top left-hand side. So this is going to be our voice command prompt. So we can make phone calls, we can change radio stations, we can navigate using our voice if we wanted to. If our phone was connected through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, we could press that to activate either Siri or our Google Assistant. We've got our mode button, and that's going to let us change between AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. So we've got a series of different things there. We can go through our phone projection, AM, FM, etc. So a lot of flexibility when it comes down to it. We've got a volume rocker, so we can go up or down there. And then we can also change between our presets, or we can press and hold in order to be able to seek to a different station as well. Down a tiny little bit more, we can answer or hang up on a phone call. Looking along the right-hand side, so that first one is going to be for our pages in the middle instrument cluster there. We'll get to that one in just a second. But this specific one does have the adaptive cruise control system. So we can have that smart cruise, we can turn that one on easily by pressing the button there. This one is going to be our distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us as we go? And then this one is going to be for our lane centering system. So we can center the vehicle out as we want to. So what's going to happen is as we start to drive, if the vehicle senses the lanes, it's going to keep us centered within our lanes, which I think is a great feature. And from there, we also can increase or decrease how fast we're going. And then these ones are going to let us go between different screens. So let's kind of zoom in a tiny little bit to give you a little bit of a better view there. But as you can see, so starting off on the first screen, so we've got our basics there. So we've got our fuel economy, accumulated info, drive info, etc. In order to be able to reset, we're literally just going to press this button in the middle. So the one where we're going up and down, we just press and hold. And as you can see there, it's reset that value for us. Jumping between another page, so we've got our compass there as well. And then last one is going to be our basics, so our cruise. So we've got different options there. We can go up and down between different settings. So we've got our system off for our lane keeping system. So we've got our cruise there. So as you can see, it's hidden. Moving down, we've got our attention level. So as we start to veer over into a lane without signaling, that attention level is going to drop down more and more and more. When it gets down to low, it's going to let us know we should probably take a break. All right, and moving down, so we can figure out what's going on with each wheel, so it'll let us know which wheel is getting what amount of power. We've got our tire pressure, and then we've also got our back to our system settings. So we press OK in the middle, and then that goes into some more advanced settings. So we've got our driving assistant, so our highway drive assist, and then we've also got the highway auto curve, so it's going to slow the vehicle down automatically when we're in that auto drive. Moving back, and we've also got our attention level as well. So each one, we've got different settings for each thing that we're in. So we've got our driver warning there. So we've got different warning timers. Jumping back in again, we've got our warning volume. And that's going a high, medium, or a low volume. Moving back, we can move down into our attention level. So we can reset it by pressing the OK button there. Right now, looking at our left stick, so this is the one that's going to let us flip between different modes for our running lamps. If we're in one of the other modes, so our permanent light on, we can permanently lock out our high beams as well. So we're going to push out to lock them, pull in to turn them off again. So we've got some flexibility there. And then we can also figure out what's going on with our fog lamps. So we can turn them on or off by flipping this other switch up and down. Now, as we start to move off to the other side, so right side is going to let us control what's going on with our windshield wipers. And then we can also flip our rear wiper on by turning the stick on the very end. So there's a little bit at the very tip. We can switch that around to turn those on or off. All right, next up, taking a peek at the actual media screen. So this is a 10.25-inch media screen. In the lower trim levels, you're going to be looking at an 8-inch media screen instead. But there's a lot of flexibility and there are a lot of options when it comes down to it. Now, along the top there, we've got different settings. So if we've got multiple users, we can easily set some up. We can do a guest, or we'll have different users down on the bottom there as well. Moving into our home button, a lot of options. So let's start off with our map. So this specific one, the 10.25-inch screen, will have factory navigation included. If you have the 8-inch media screen, don't worry, because we can connect through Android Auto and Apple CarPlay to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze if we wanted to. We've also got this button. So as you can see there, we've got our menu where we can look at our different route. We've got our nearby point of interest icons, traffic display, and a number of other things. Moving into our options there. So this is where we can go in order to be able to search for addresses. So if we just start randomly typing in an address, all right, there we go, perfect. So CAA Kingston, it's gonna take me to a random route. So we're gonna go CAA Kingston. There we go, so as you can see there, it's gonna let us know, and we can go, and we can set it as a destination, we can save it as well. So if we go to set as a destination, perfect. So as you can see there, it is now guiding us to that location. So we've got some options when it comes down to it. So we can just hit start guidance, we can go route. So we can see we've got a ton of different options there. It lets us know which way we're going. We've also got, so if we jump back into our menu there, so we've got our route, so we can reroute, and we've got some route options. There we go. We can add in a waypoint if we want to, and we can also go for a route avoidance. So if we want to avoid freeways, toll roads, things like that, we've got that option, and we can hit recalculate along the bottom there. We can restart our guidance again after we've made any changes. Moving back into our menu, we've got nearby point of interest icons. We can save it as a favorite address if we want to. So we can save it with a name. We can save that address as well, which I think is a great feature. We can increase or decrease there, and pinch. We can also pinch to zoom as well. And then we can also move this thing around. So really, really straightforward there. And we can set as a destination, set as a waypoint, things like that. Moving back home, and if we jump back into our navigation menu again, we've also got a few other options. Back into our map, this is going to bring us back to our map. We press the menu option there, we can turn our display off. We can pause the route if we wanted to as well, so very straightforward there. Moving back home, we've got our navigation menu. So we've already seen a few of these options a second ago, but we've got some places. So we click on places, we've got some different options there to be able to search. Now, one cool thing is that we can search using an address if we wanted to. We can also search using GPS coordinates. So we've got some options there. Moving back, we've got our point of interest icon, so our categories there. So certain things will show up. We've got our previously saved destinations as well, which is that address that we just put in. So we can save it, set it as a destination, etc. We can move back again. We've got our address book, different dealerships, and we can also cancel the active route. So route's been canceled there. Moving back into our home button there. So we can press home, or we can press the home icon along the top. back into our navigation menu. So we've got a few different options for the actual menu itself, and we can set up a few different waypoints. So if we typically go between different addresses, we can easily set some things up along the bottom. Next up, we've also got our phone. So phone, we've got some basic preferences. We've got our hands-free calling and then Bluetooth audio. So we can select one or the other. All right, so setting a phone up is very straightforward. So what we're gonna do is on our phone, make sure that Bluetooth is turned on, and we're just gonna go to Kia. So as you can see there, we're looking for the vehicle name, and we wanna make sure that the PIN numbers match up, which in this case they do, so it's perfect. We're gonna give that a second. All right, now it's asking me, do I wanna allow favorites and contacts to sync up? Yes, we wanna allow that. And hands-free calling is now activated. So perfect, we jump back into the phone there. So it's downloading my contacts. We can go through different contacts there. We can also go through my phone. So we've got our dial pad there, we've got our messages, and that's how we set a phone up. But setting a phone up is great, but one of the cool things is that we also do have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay capabilities. So in order to be able to set that up, it's very straightforward. All we're gonna do is take our USB cable and plug it into that USB port in the very front, and we're just gonna take the opposite end of the cable, and we're just gonna plug ourselves in. Bam, watch this. Okay, do we want to allow CarPlay with the phone while it's locked? Yes, we want to allow that. And CarPlay, so we've got our GPS location, we've got our Bluetooth services, so we're just gonna hit the next button there. And one of the cool things is that we can also use Siri by pressing the button on our steering wheel. But as you can see, we've got my maps, we've got my Google Maps, we've got Waze, so we've got a ton of different options when it comes down to it. Now, that's one nice thing to know because yes, this thing does have factory navigation, but if you'd prefer to use Apple Maps, Google Maps, Waze, or whatever the case may be, you've got some flexibility there, so I love that fact. Now, one of the cool things about Apple CarPlay is that inside of our settings, so if we go General Settings, into CarPlay, we can select the vehicle and customize, and we can drag and drop some things. So if you tend to listen to podcasts a little bit more, and then your audiobooks, we can drag these things, we can remove certain things as well. If you've played around with it too much, like we can add them back into the bottom, or we can just do a reset to bring it back to that factory default instead. 1, 2, 3, there we go, and we are now back to our default. And one of the cool things is that we do have that flexibility, is that it stretches across the entire screen, and I love the way that this thing looks. Now, as a default, it may only be partway through. I'll show you in just a second how we can make sure that it's stretched across the full side. But jumping back home, as you can see there, we are back home. Now, certain things like LiveX Live, Pandora, etc. will work through Apple CarPlay as well, which is great. And as you can see, we are now connected again in order to jump back into our main menu screen. So we're just gonna hit the Kia button there, and that brings us back to this main screen instead. So we've got a little bit of flexibility now from this screen. If we jump into setup, we've got a few different options there. So we've got navigation, sound, device connections. So if we go to device connections, we've got Bluetooth, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. So if we jump into Apple CarPlay, which is what I've connected, we have to, in order to be able to make changes, first disconnect. So we disconnect there, jump back into CarPlay, and now we can enable it, and then we can use split screen as well. So if we hit split screen, I want you to watch something for a sec. So split screen, plug back in, and watch this. Here, we're gonna go back to our home screen. There we go, perfect. We're gonna go back into Apple CarPlay, so we're gonna go home and Apple CarPlay, and look at this, we're split screen. So it's really cool that we've got that option. And again, in order to be able to set that back up and bring it back down again, and actually while we're there, jump into CarPlay because we can be connected through CarPlay, but if you see there, we can also use our regular radio instead. Now, that's very straightforward. So in order to be able to set the screen up again, all we're gonna do is go Kia, we go into our setting along the bottom, so our settings there, device connections, and same thing, in order to be able to make that change, we have to be disconnected through CarPlay first. We go to Apple CarPlay, and we can enable or disable the split screen if we wanted to. We can also completely disable Apple CarPlay, which is beneficial because we can then be charging the phone up without actually using CarPlay. So you've got some flexibility there if you want to, and it works the same way with Android Auto, so we can go one way or the other. And then we've got our Bluetooth connections again. We go back to our home screen, we jump back into our phone, and we've got a few different options there. So as you can see, back to my dial pad, and it really is that simple setting up a phone inside of this vehicle. Now, connecting an Android device is literally the exact same process. So if we go to our phone projection there, so as you can see, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay supported. So we're gonna go to settings there if we want to, so we can enable, disable, etc. We jump into Bluetooth and then Bluetooth connections. As you can see, we've got my iPhone that's connected. We can delete the device or we can add new. So we're literally gonna do that. We're just gonna go add new on this screen. As you can see, so we've got some options there, so we're just gonna hit OK. Okay, so we're looking for a phone in our Bluetooth settings. We're looking for a vehicle in our phone settings. That's the exact same name there. So as you can see, we've got Kia. We're just gonna press Kia there. Okay, same thing, make sure the numbers match up, and they do, so we're just gonna hit OK on the phone. And there it is. Hands-free and Bluetooth are now connected. Really that simple. Now, as you can see, it's asking me, do I want to allow access to my contacts? Yes, we definitely want to make sure we do that. And we're connected. We go back to that home screen in just a second. So contacts downloading successfully. Allow access to messages. Yes, we want to allow that as well. And we are now connected. Perfect. Now, as we jump back to the home screen for a second, we jump back into my phone and it's literally the exact same look. So we've got call history, contact book, things like that. So a lot of flexibility. Now we do also have the option of setting up Android Auto, and it literally works the exact same process. All we're going to do, take our USB cable and we're going to plug it into that front port there, opposite end of the cable, and we're just going to plug ourselves in. Boom. Okay, let's give that a second. Okay, Android Auto would like to turn on Bluetooth. Yes, we want to hit next there. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ah, it's fully connected. So as you can see, we've got my maps and we jump into that home button there, and that's going to bring us back to this basic screen. But we've got my reminders, maps, news, podcasts, messages, and a number of other things. Along the very bottom, we can hot press to get back into Google Maps. We've got my notification center and then my Google Assistant. Now, very similar to the iPhone side of things that we just saw, we can also search on our phone for Android Auto. So we search for Android Auto, we can jump into our settings, and we've got our currently connected vehicle, and we can also customize the launcher. So if you have a preference, maybe jump your podcast up to the top. So we're just going to press it, hold it, and drag. Now, unlike the iPhone side of things where it was dynamic and it updated it automatically, we have to restart Android Auto in order for this change to work. We can move back for our Google detection. We've got our daylight mode, we've got our Google Assistant, and a number of other things. And then in order to be able to remove phones is very straightforward. So go back to the main menu there and just disconnect for a second, jump back into my phone projection, go into settings. Okay, and we've got Bluetooth there. So we can disable Android Auto, Apple CarPlay if we wanted to, or we can just jump into our Bluetooth connections. We've got both of my phones, so we can delete the phones if we wanted to. So we can mark all if we want to delete them both. We can delete one or the other. We press delete, yes. And iPhone's gone. And the Galaxy is gone. It really is that simple, connecting a phone to this vehicle. All right, so as you can see, all of the phones are disconnected now. So we jump back to our home screen. We've got my phone projection. We've also got a voice memo prompt. So we can select voice memos and we can set up voice memos inside of the vehicle as well, which I think is kind of a neat touch. We've got some climate control settings as well. So jumping inside, so we can auto dehumidify or defog. And we've also got our valet mode. So the valet mode is an interesting one because if we've got that mode activated, what that's going to do is lock this screen out. So if you're lending the vehicle out, you've got a valet parking it, whatever the case may be, they can't look through all of your different settings, addresses, things like that. We've got sound mood lamp. I'll take a second. There we go. So as you can see, we've got some different options there. So we've got different colors, different themes, and things like that. So if you've got a preference, you can easily set that one up if you want to. We've got our HD radio, we've got our regular radio, which, watch this for a second. Ah, look at this. I love this old school look. Like, it is so freaking cool on Kia's part to do this. Like, it's so nostalgic. Looking along the bottom, we've got our HD radio. We can flip between stations. And if we want to save a preset, it's pretty straightforward. Like, all we're going to do is change to whatever station we want to. We start it, and it's saved as a preset. And from there, we can just de-start in order to get rid of it. So it really is that simple, setting up presets in this thing. Jumping back, as you can see, we've got a few other options. So we've got our basic media. So jumping into media, we've got AM, FM, Sirius XM. We've got our sounds of nature as well, which is really cool if, yeah, there we go, this is it. If you prefer these types of sounds, we've got our basic media again, and we've also got our setup screen. Let's actually turn this down a tiny little bit. All right, here we go. So we've got some other settings that are available there. So we've got our basics for vehicle settings. All right, here we go. So we've got our driving convenience. Firstly, we've got our driving assistant and then the auto curve slowdown, which if the vehicle senses an upcoming curve, it's automatically going to slow us down. Our warning timer, so we've got a few different options there. The volume of that timer. Our driver attention alert. So as we start to veer over too many times, it's going to let us know we should probably take a break. We've got our forward safety setting as well. So that setting is something that we can turn off. So that pre-collision assist where it's potentially going to brake for us, we can turn that one on or off if we want to. We've got our lane safety system as well. So we've got our assist, we've got our warning as well. So we've got a few different options when it comes down to it. The actual assist, what that's going to do is that's going to keep us and recenter us back into our lane. We've got our blind spot system, and that's either going to be either a warning or same thing, it's going to nudge us back into our lane as well if there's a potential collision. And then we've got our safe exit assist as well. Moving down, we've also got our parking safety, so our rear cross traffic alert. So as we're backing up, if the vehicle senses another vehicle, a potential collision, it's going to actively let us know about that. So we can turn these safety settings off if we really don't want them. We've got some basics for our cluster, so we've got our illumination. All right, so we've got our auto adjust, so the vehicle's automatically going to determine how bright or dark this thing is, or we can manually adjust it if we want to. We've got a blue light filter, which I love the fact we've got that. It is so cool. And then extended rear camera use as well. Moving back, we've got a few other options, so our service interval, energy consumption, and then our welcome sound. Moving to our climate, we've got auto ventilation, and then our defrog and defrost, our rear seat heating control. So that's one of the cool things because our second row does have heated seats, and we can turn that one on or off from the front here also. Moving back, we've also got our lights. So we've got our one touch tight, and this is a cool one because if we hit our turn signal, we've got 3 blanks. I don't know if you heard that, but we've got 3 compared to if we hit 5 and we go to turn. So we can select how many times this turn signal goes, either off, where it's just gonna go once, 3, 5, 7, etc. We've got our headlight delay and then our high beam assist. So the high beam assist is a pretty cool one because what that's going to do is exactly this. It's going to automatically dim the high beams if it senses a potential another vehicle that's oncoming for us. So I really recommend keeping this setting on. That's going to be the basics of our driver assistance. We've got some navigation settings as well. So we've already seen a few of these basics, but we've got our map. We've got a few different options for our map display, our font size, map color, and then our point of interest icons. Big one here, so we've got our guidance. So we've got our interval, our voice guidance. We've got the option of muting that out if we don't want to have the vehicle talking to us, our cross border, and then we've got some different alerts. How are they going to show up? And then we've got some other settings. So fuel price information, user data, things like that. Moving into some sound settings. So as you can see, we can figure out what's going on with the actual positioning of the sound. We've got our sound tuning as well, so treble, mid-range, bass. We've got our basics for guidance as well. So our parking safety priority. So as we're backing up and we've got the vehicle in reverse, it's literally going to lower all the other volume for us, and that's just a basic safety one. And it's the same thing with our navigation. So if we've got an upcoming turn, it's going to lower our car audio in order to let us know of an upcoming turn as well. We've got some different system volumes, and we've got a radio noise as well. Moving back, we've got our device connections, which we've already seen that one. So we've got our Bluetooth connections, our system info, things like that. We've got a user profile. So if we've got multiple users in the vehicle, we can set up an individual profile for everybody. We've got voice recognition. So we've got our beginner, normal, or our expert mode. So if we hit the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, I want you to listen to something for a second. 94.9. Okay, so when we're in the beginner mode, it lets us know what's going on. So it gives us notifications as it makes changes. When we go into expert mode, listen to this now. 97.7. Okay, it changed the station for us because we go home for a second. Let's go to our home there, and as you can see, it's changed the radio station for us, but it didn't let us know that it was doing it. So that's one of the cool things about that system. When we get into the advanced mode, we just won't get as many notifications. So if those notifications drive you nuts, we do have the flexibility in our setup in order to be able to change that around in our voice recognition. So we've got a few different settings there. Our screen theme and layout, so we've got a few different options as well. So we've got our analog clock, digital, etc. We've got our split screens. So our split screen, we can do that for certain things. So for our map, compasses, etc. So what's going to actually show up in that screen? And we've got some basics for our display as well. So again, we can automatically adjust the brightness. We've got a few different options there. We've got our buttons. Now the button is going to be literally this. So we can set up a custom button for us, not only here, but also on the steering wheel when we hit that mode. So in this, we can have it pull up our UVO, our sound mode, HD radio. Inside of remote there on the steering wheel, we can switch between different things as well. So it'll rotate us between Bluetooth audio, sounds of nature, music, and things like that. So we've got some flexibility as to what's actually happening when we press either button. We've got some general settings as well. Which general settings? We've got our models, software, system info, my date and time, language as well. So we've got a few different options, go between English, French, Spanish, or Korean. So a little bit of flexibility when it comes down to it. Next up, we've got our sound of nature, which we've already heard, UVO, which we've already looked at, notifications, which lets us know, we have to activate UVO first, but lets us know if there's an update available, things like that. And then we've also got a user manual. So it's a QR code, we scan it on our phone, and that's going to launch us into the online manual. So really, really cool that we've got that feature, and that's going to be the basics of this media screen. As we move down, we've got a volume rocker. We've got some basic buttons as well to jump between different screens inside of this media screen, and we can also tune. But honestly, using the tuning rocker that way is probably the least effective method, because we can just press the button on the steering wheel and we can use that in order to be able to change songs, radio stations, things things like that if our vehicle supports it. So really, really great feature. Moving down a tiny little bit more, we've got our basic. So this is actually a really cool system for our climate control. So it's a mix of like a visual screen as well as our regular push buttons as well. So I think it's kind of neat what Kia's decided to do with this thing. I love the look of it. Down a little bit more, we do have the option for wireless charging in some trim levels of the vehicle, but the wireless charging pad isn't where you might think it is. So normally you'd kind of look right in front of the USB ports, but this one actually is hidden a little bit further back. It is kind of nice. It's kind of neat that it's hidden. And when you have a phone charging, there's a little indicator light letting you know that. So something to think about. Your phone may support it. You just have to dive in a little bit in order to see it. We've got a little handle along the side there as well. Moving down a bit, we've got a series of different drive modes. So we've got our normal, smart, or our sport mode, and each mode is going to do something different. Now, I always recommend keeping it in the sport mode, especially when you look at engines that don't have too much power to them, and even the 1.6 turbo. And the reason why is because that's going to hold the RPMs a little bit higher. It gives it a much sportier feel as you're driving, so definitely recommend keep it in that sport mode. If you're looking for something where you don't necessarily care about the power, we can switch it into the eco mode instead, so that's smart mode, and that's going to keep things a little bit, it's not going to rev it quite as high. It's more for that, I just want to get from A to B. I'm in no rush. That's really what you're looking at there. Moving down, we've got our shifter knob. We've got our basics like our park, reverse, neutral, drive, but we can also flip it over for our standard mode. So we can go up and down between gears if we want to. So that's kind of neat. And one of the cool things is that we can also shift that on the fly. So as you're driving, you want to get a little bit more of a sportier performance, drop it into our smart mode, into our shifter mode, and then we can go up and down as necessary. And then flick that back up from there. Now, at a minimum, this thing is also going to have at least heated seats. Now I say at least heated seats because this thing also has the option for ventilated seats, which in the summertime, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love the ventilated seats. And it is just a switch down here, so we can go between either our cooled or our heated seats. If your car doesn't have the heated seats, it's just going to show the heated button there at a default. And as I said, you're at least going to have heated seats. Down a little bit more, this one also does have the heated steering wheel, and it's the heated wheel all the way around, so great during winter time. Off to the other side, we've got our all-wheel drive lock, so definitely, it's kind of cool. I love the fact that Kia's got that all-wheel drive lock, because otherwise it's an intelligent all-wheel drive. So the vehicle's automatically going to flip us out between power in each wheel, depending on what it recognizes that we need, or we can permanently lock it out to that four-wheel drive if we wanted to. Down a bit more, we also do have our controls for our passenger seat, same thing, heated and ventilated. And then we've got a hill descent control, so a downhill brake control button. Now what that's going to do is if we're going downhill and we're doing more technical driving, like think off-roading, things like that, it's going to keep us at a set speed. So we literally only have to worry about driving with the steering wheel, and the vehicle is going to keep us at that speed. So if you're going off-roading, just knowing that that feature is available. Down a bit more, we've got our electronic parking brake. You're going to pull up to turn it on, and you're going to press the brake and push down in order to turn it off. Down a bit more, we also have our auto hold setting. So the auto hold setting is an interesting one because when we shift the car into drive and we take our foot off the brake, it's literally going to hold us into place. As we move down a tiny bit more, we do have a few cup holders, and then we've also got another little storage space. Into the actual armrest, we do have a little bit of storage space in there as well. No additional ports inside of this thing, but in front of the shifter, we have we've got a 12-volt power point, and then we've got two USB ports as well. We've got one USB port for power, and the other one if we're going to be hooking a phone up for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. As we start to move up overhead, auto dimming rear view mirror in this trim level of the vehicle. It might be a manual flip instead. Up ahead a little bit more, so we do have a few basics. So we've got our tow, we've got our SOS modes as well. This specific one does have the sunroof, and it's going to be the same sunroof if your vehicle is equipped with one. So it's a manual shade, and then we can vent this thing up, or we can easily open and close it if we want to. We've got our basic for our cabin control lighting there as well. And then we've also got our visor with our vanity mirror, and there is a light along the very top, which is nice. We've got a business card holder in there as well. We can click this thing out and extend it if we need to block some more sun, which I think is always a great feature to have. Now this sunroof is nice. Like at the end of the day, it's not a full panoramic, but if you're a fan of at least having a sunroof, we've got that option. Oh yeah. All right, folks, now time for the fun part. Let's take this thing out for a spin and see how it handles. So a couple things. I am going to make sure that I am in sport mode. All right, drive mode sport, which is going to be so nice. And that's one thing to think about, especially when you're in a vehicle that doesn't have an engine that's super powerful. When we get into the sport mode, it's going to hold onto those gears longer, so it gives you a sportier performance. Let's figure out what that feels like. It's the raw power of the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. For the engine size, like, I'm not gonna fault it there. It's okay for what it is. Like, it's a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine. I wasn't really expecting it to be something crazy, so, but it is nice to know, like, if you're just looking for a car, you just wanna get A to B, whatever the case may be, it's a good option. It's comfortable, but one thing, okay, so one thing is, it's fairly comfortable. I did notice that inside of the Sportage, the actual headrest was a tiny little bit more comfortable though, so gonna be a matter of preference there, but this thing is nice, feature-wise is good, head space, a ton of space, which is nice, because I'm taller at the end of the day. When it comes into the actual seat, there are a few different options for the seat itself. So you've got the option for either a cloth seat, pleather seat, leather seat, depending on the trim level you're in. It's kind of cool. I was test driving the Stinger a couple weeks ago, and that thing, the 22 Stinger, is amazing. Like, power-wise is great, but one of the cool features of it were the actual seats, surprisingly enough, because it had an option when you went into the sport mode, it actually curved the seats around your body. So it almost like it held you into your seat even more. It was really, really freaking cool. It almost as if you were in like another car with a Recaro seat, because the Recaro Sport seats are very tight seats. So that is what the Kia Stinger reminded me of, was those seats specifically. So I've got to figure this thing out when it's in the manual drive mode, what that is going to be like. All right, here we go. There it is, there it is. All right. So this thing pretty much has to redline to give you good power. So something to think about there, but it's not bad. Honestly, for what it is, for the engine size, it's pretty cool. And one of the nice things, I love the fact that we can change between the regular drive mode versus the sport mode as we go. So rather than having to sit there and, you know, kind of fiddle with things and come to a complete stop, we can just flip it over to that sport mode if we wanted to. Little roundabout. Not bad. Nimble little bugger. Okay, all right. A couple other things. I definitely have the cooled seats going right now as well, because it is a teeny bit toasty outside right now, but those cooled seats are really, really nice. And I am super surprised to see it inside of the Seltos. So, I mean, if you're a person, you enjoy some of those nice luxuries, it's cool to know that you don't have to worry about going to a premium brand. Like, you could look at just even the base Seltos. Like I said, I'm surprised that the cooled seats are inside of this thing, but it's really, really nice. Heated at a minimum, cooled optional. Okay, I've got the lane keeping system on right now as well, so that should, in theory, it's keeping me right in my lane. That's so cool. So cool. Okay, I'm gonna kind of veer over and see what happens. Yeah, I veer over and like immediately it's like nudging me back into my lane. And then, okay, so my hands are literally off the wheel right now. Oh, well, I should say hovering over the wheel right now, but it is keeping me perfectly balanced between these two lanes with that lane keeping assist mode. That is really, really cool, Kia. Good job. Oh, that is so neat. I love cars with technology like this. Like, it is such a simple thing, but it is such a cool thing all at the same time. Quick and nimble. All right, little bit of gas. All right, sport mode. Yeah, like I said, sport mode is definitely where it's at inside of this vehicle. Like, this isn't the 1.6 turbo. It's just the 2-liter naturally aspirated. But if the 1.6, like, the power difference isn't too big between the two of them. So I would definitely recommend, if you've got the SX turbo, definitely drive around in sport mode as well. You will absolutely notice a difference in the ride quality when you do. Well, folks, that was an in-depth look at the 2022 Kia Seltos. What did you think? I like this thing. It's cute, it's nimble, and it's at a good price point. If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. And until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe. The shifter knob is nice because we've got our shifter knob is nice. The shifter knob is nice, and the reason why